Imagine a lone gunslinger rides into a dusty town, squinting through the heat as tension builds to an explosive climax. A Fistful of Dollars wasn't just another Western. It was a cinematic revolution that rewrote the rulebook entirely. Behind its gritty charm and legendary standoffs lie secrets most fans never discover. From silent film sets and shocking lawsuits to ponchos that were never washed and a whistle that haunted the world, this film's behind-the-scenes story is packed with jaw-dropping surprises. Today, we're diving deep into hidden truths about how Sergio Leone and Clint Eastwood transformed a shoestring budget gamble into a cultural milestone that changed cinema forever. Number 1. Film without sound. Imagine watching actors perform their most dramatic scenes in complete silence. That's exactly what happened during the entire production of this groundbreaking Western. The film was shot entirely without any live audio being captured on set. Every single word of dialogue, every sound effect, and even the subtle sounds of footsteps were added later during post-production through dubbing techniques. This unusual approach wasn't just a technical choice. It gave the movie its distinctly surreal and stylized atmosphere that audiences had never experienced before. The silence on set allowed Leone to focus purely on visual storytelling, creating that operatic intensity that would become his signature style. Number 2. The poncho never washed. What if we told you that one of cinema's most iconic costume pieces was never cleaned throughout an entire trilogy? Eastwood's legendary poncho tells a story of authentic filmmaking dedication. The same weathered poncho that draped over Eastwood's shoulders wasn't just worn in this film. It accompanied him through the entire Dollars trilogy without ever seeing soap and water. The accumulating dirt, sweat, and wear weren't accidents but deliberate choices. Leone absolutely loved how the natural aging process added genuine authenticity to the character. Each stain and tear made the poncho as legendary as the actor wearing it, creating a piece of costume history that looked lived in because it truly was. Number 3. Spain became the Wild West. Sometimes the perfect American frontier isn't found in America at all. The rugged landscapes that convinced millions of viewers they were watching the authentic Wild West were actually thousands of miles away from the United States. All filming took place in Spain's stunning Almeria desert and the picturesque village of Hoyo de Manzanares. These Spanish locations became the visual foundation for what we now know as spaghetti westerns, successfully standing in for America's frontier territories. The choice was brilliant. These landscapes offered the perfect combination of dramatic desert vistas and authentic western town architecture that would define the genre for decades to come. Number 4. Mime instead of words. Communication barriers can sometimes lead to the most creative solutions in filmmaking. Leone faced a significant challenge that forced him to develop an entirely unique directing style. Since Leone spoke very little English, he couldn't rely on traditional verbal direction with his international cast. Instead, he acted out entire scenes using exaggerated gestures and mime-like movements to convey his vision. This theatrical directing approach gave the cast an incredibly clear sense of the film's tone and style without depending on spoken language. The technique proved so effective that it became part of Leone's signature method, helping create the operatic, larger-than-life performances that made the film unforgettable. Number 5. Kurosawa sued for copying. Sometimes inspiration crosses the line into legal territory, and this Western found itself in serious trouble with one of cinema's greatest masters. The similarities between stories became impossible to ignore. The plot mirrored Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo so closely that the legendary director's studio took legal action against the production. They didn't just win the lawsuit, they secured an incredible 15% of all worldwide profits from the film. The ironic twist? Kurosawa ended up earning significantly more money from this Western than Leone himself did. This legal victory turned what could have been a disaster into one of the most profitable copyright settlements in film history. Number 6. Eastwood's $15,000 gamble. Taking a break from a successful television series to star in a foreign film might seem like career-ending. One actor's decision to walk away from steady work for a mysterious project in Spain changed everything. Eastwood temporarily left his role on Rawhide during a hiatus, accepting just $15,000 for this unknown Western. At the time, industry insiders viewed it as an incredibly risky career move that could potentially damage his rising television fame. The gamble seemed questionable to everyone around him, trading American television success for a low-budget European production. However, this seemingly dangerous decision transformed him from a TV actor into an international movie star, proving that sometimes the biggest risk yield the greatest rewards. Number 7. Silent film roots showed. Before sound-dominated cinema, directors mastered the art of visual storytelling in ways that modern filmmakers often forget. Leone's background in an earlier era of movie making shaped his revolutionary approach to this Western. His extensive experience with silent-era filmmaking techniques heavily influenced his unique vision for the project. Rather than relying on dialogue to drive the story forward, he focused on meaningful gestures, dramatic pauses, and powerful visual compositions. This approach created a distinctive rhythm that set the movie completely apart from traditional Westerns. The emphasis on visual storytelling over verbal communication gave the film an almost mythical quality that resonated with audiences worldwide. Number 8. Building a cowboy look. Sometimes the most iconic movie costumes aren't created by professional designers, but assembled piece by piece through personal choices. The legendary outfit that defined a character came together through individual shopping trips. Eastwood personally pieced together his entire costume: denim jeans purchased in Hollywood, a distinctive hat found in Santa Monica, and the now famous poncho bought during the Spanish filming location, Scouting. These personal wardrobe choices weren't random. Each piece was carefully selected to create a specific look that felt authentic and lived in. His individual taste in clothing became the character's lasting visual image, proving that sometimes the best costume design happens organically rather than through elaborate planning. Number 9. Eastwood didn't know he was famous. Imagine becoming a sensation across an entire continent without having any idea it was happening. While audiences in Europe were going crazy for this new Western star, the actor himself remained completely unaware. As the movie became a massive sensation throughout European theaters, Eastwood continued his normal life back in America, completely in the dark about his newfound international fame. The film's success was spreading like wildfire overseas. He only discovered the extent of his European stardom when his agent finally showed him the incredible amount of buzz and media attention surrounding the film abroad. The revelation must have been both shocking and thrilling for someone who thought he'd made a small foreign film. Number 10. Faces that kept returning. Creating a sense of familiarity across multiple films requires more than just a continuing story. It needs a consistent cast that audiences can recognize and connect with. Several supporting actors, including Mario Brega and Aldo Sambrell, appeared not just in this film, but throughout the entire trilogy. Their recurring presence wasn't accidental, but a deliberate choice to create continuity. These familiar faces gave the Dollars films an almost theatrical ensemble feeling, like a repertory company performing different variations of the same themes. Audiences began to recognize these character actors, creating a sense of cinematic family that enhanced the viewing experience across all three films. Number 11. The whistle that echoed forever. Some sounds become so iconic that they define entire generations of cinema. Behind one of the most recognizable musical moments in film history was an unexpected friendship and a simple whistle. Alessandro Alessandroni, a close friend of composer Ennio Morricone, created the eerie whistling tune that became the soundtrack's most haunting element. His performance wasn't done by a professional vocalist, but by someone who simply had the perfect whistle. That distinctive sound became one of the most recognizable audio signatures in cinema history. Decades later, people who have never seen the film can instantly identify that whistle, proving how powerfully music can transcend its original medium to become part of popular culture. Number 12. Stars who said no first. Sometimes the perfect casting happens only after multiple rejections lead to unexpected discoveries. Before finding the ideal leading man, several major Hollywood stars turned down what would become a career-defining role. Leone initially approached established stars, including Henry Fonda, James Coburn, and Charles Bronson, for the mysterious gunslinger character. All of them either declined the offer outright or proved too expensive for the film's modest budget. These rejections opened the door for a relatively unknown television actor to step into the role. What seemed like casting setbacks actually led to the perfect match between actor and character, proving that sometimes the best choices happen when Plan A falls through. Number 13. A screenplay with many fathers. Behind every great film is usually a clear writing credit, But sometimes the creative process becomes so collaborative that determining authorship becomes nearly impossible. Multiple writers claimed credit for the screenplay, including Duccio Tessari and Fernando De Leo, creating disputes that blurred the lines of who actually wrote what portions of the story. The situation became even more complicated during production. Leone himself shaped much of the final script directly on set, rewriting scenes and dialogue as filming progressed. This collaborative and fluid approach to screenwriting meant that the final film represented the combined efforts of several creative minds rather than a single vision. Number 14. The title changed last minute. Marketing decisions made at the last possible moment can sometimes make the difference between a memorable film and a forgotten one. This Western's iconic title almost never existed. Only 3 days before the premiere, the film's name was switched from The Magnificent Stranger to A Fistful of Dollars. The original title lacked the punch and memorability that the new one would provide. That last-minute change helped create an instantly iconic brand that captured the film's essence perfectly. The new title suggested both the greed that motivated characters and the violence that would unfold, making it far more effective for marketing and cultural impact. Number 15. Trickery in the storyline. Great storytelling often relies on keeping audiences guessing, and this film elevated narrative misdirection to an art form. Every plot twist was carefully crafted to maintain maximum tension. Leone deliberately misled audiences throughout the story, with constantly shifting alliances, fake betrayals, and dramatically timed pauses that built suspense. Characters switched sides unexpectedly, keeping viewers uncertain about loyalties. The tension built from these narrative tricks became Leone's signature storytelling style, influencing countless future films. This approach proved that audiences loved being kept off balance, never quite sure who to trust or what would happen next. Number 16. US release delayed by fear. Sometimes legal concerns can keep great films from reaching their intended audiences for years. American distributors found themselves caught between artistic merit and potential courtroom battles. Distributors hesitated to release the film in America, deeply worried about possible legal trouble with Kurosawa's legal team over the similarity issues. The fear of expensive lawsuits made companies reluctant to take the risk. Even as reports of European success continued to pour in, the movie only arrived on American shores after it had already smashed box office records throughout Europe, proving its commercial viability beyond any doubt. Success abroad finally convinced nervous distributors that the potential profits outweighed the legal risks, allowing American audiences to experience this groundbreaking Western. The delay actually built anticipation, making the eventual US release even more impactful. Number 17. A new visual language. Revolutionary filmmaking often comes from completely reimagining how cameras can tell stories. This Western introduced visual techniques that had never been seen in the genre before. Extreme close-ups of eyes, sweat droplets, and desert dust redefined how Westerns could look and feel. Leone's camera work created operatic intensity from moments of complete silence and perfect stillness, turning simple facial expressions into dramatic events. These techniques showed audiences visual storytelling in ways they had never experienced before. The combination of intimate close-ups with vast landscape shots created a visual language that influenced filmmakers for decades, proving that technical innovation could enhance emotional impact. Even today, directors still reference Leone's groundbreaking camera work. Number 18. Eastwood's voice was dubbed later. The voice that became synonymous with the character wasn't actually recorded during the intense filming sessions. Post-production work created the final audio experience that audiences heard in theaters. During the actual filming process, Eastwood didn't record any of his dialogue on set. All of his lines were dubbed and added afterward during the sound mixing process, maintaining consistency with the film's silent shooting approach and allowing for perfect audio quality. In international versions released around the world, different actors even provided his voice in various languages. This meant that audiences in different countries experienced the character through completely different vocal performances while watching the same visual performance. The dubbing process became standard practice for spaghetti westerns. Number 19. A lullaby became a legend. Sometimes the most haunting musical themes come from the most innocent origins. The composition that would define an entire genre started as something completely different. Morricone based his now legendary theme on a simple lullaby he had composed years earlier. The gentle, soothing melody seemed like an unlikely foundation for such an intense Western soundtrack, yet it provided the perfect emotional foundation. By adding layers including whistling, cracking whips, and gunfire sound effects, he transformed the peaceful tune into something haunting and unforgettable. This creative process showed how familiar elements could be reimagined to create something entirely new and powerful. The contrast between innocent melody and harsh sounds created the perfect musical tension. Number 20. The Man with No Name was Joe. Marketing campaigns sometimes create mythologies that become more famous than the actual story. The mysterious character branding that defined the trilogy wasn't part of the original script. The Man with No Name concept was invented specifically for US marketing purposes to create intrigue and mystique around the character. In the actual screenplay, the character was simply called Joe throughout the story, giving him a completely ordinary identity. However, mystery proved far better for advertising and audience engagement than a simple name. The nameless gunslinger concept became so powerful that it overshadowed the character's actual identity, creating a marketing legend that enhanced the film's appeal. This marketing strategy influenced how future films would brand their mysterious protagonists. Number 21. Small budget, huge payoff. Sometimes the most profitable films come from the most modest beginnings. This Western proved that financial limitations don't have to limit creative or commercial success. The entire film cost approximately $200,000 to make, a tiny budget even by 1960s standards. Despite these financial constraints, the production managed to create something that looked far more expensive than its actual cost through clever filmmaking techniques. The investment paid off spectacularly when the film grossed nearly $20 million worldwide, creating one of cinema's most impressive profit margins. This incredible success demonstrated that small investments could yield massive global returns when creativity and vision replaced expensive production values. The film became a template for low-budget filmmaking that maximized every dollar spent. Independent filmmakers still study this production as proof that financial constraints can actually enhance creative problem-solving. Number 22. Almost shelved in America. Even successful films sometimes face resistance from the very companies meant to distribute them. Major studios can be surprisingly conservative when faced with something truly innovative. United Artists nearly refused to distribute the film entirely, convinced that American audiences wouldn't accept a European-made Western from relatively unknown filmmakers. The concept of a foreign Western seemed too risky for traditional Hollywood thinking. However, the film's roaring success throughout European markets finally convinced them to take the calculated risk. The overseas box office numbers were impossible to ignore, proving that audiences were hungry for something different. This hesitation nearly cost the studio one of their most profitable releases, teaching Hollywood that innovation often comes from unexpected sources. The decision to finally release it became one of the smartest business moves in film distribution history. Number 23. An operatic Western. Genre classifications can sometimes limit how filmmakers approach their projects. Leone had a completely different vision for what a Western could become. Leone consistently described the movie as more opera than traditional Western, emphasizing that his vision focused on rhythm, spectacle, and mythological storytelling. He wasn't interested in historical accuracy or cultural realism that dominated American Westerns. For Leone, the film was about creating larger-than-life emotions and dramatic moments that transcended realistic storytelling. This operatic approach influenced how audiences experienced the genre, proving that Westerns could be artistic expressions rather than just entertainment. The combination of music, visual drama, and emotional intensity created something entirely new within familiar Western framework. This artistic philosophy would later inspire countless directors to treat genre films as high art. Number 24. A forgotten designer's touch. Behind every memorable film opening lies careful artistic design that sets the tone for everything that follows. One artist's contribution became a defining element of an entire genre. Eugenio Lardani created the bold, animated title sequence that perfectly established the film's mood and style before audiences saw a single scene. His innovative design work combined graphics and animation in ways that felt fresh and exciting. Unfortunately, Lardani often went uncredited for his groundbreaking contributions to the film's visual identity. His title sequence work became a trademark element of spaghetti Western style, influencing countless future films in the genre. The opening credits became as iconic as the film itself, proving that every element of filmmaking contributes to lasting cultural impact. Modern designers still reference his work when creating opening sequences for action films. Number 25. Critics mocked, fans loved. The relationship between critical opinion and popular success doesn't always align, especially when something truly innovative challenges established expectations. Italian critics initially dismissed the film as cheap pulp entertainment, failing to recognize the artistic innovation happening within the Western genre. They couldn't appreciate how Leone was revolutionizing cinematic storytelling through his unique approach. However, audiences around the world couldn't get enough of this new style of Western filmmaking. The groundswell of fan enthusiasm completely overwhelmed critical dismissal, making the film a genuine cultural phenomenon that transcended professional opinions. This disconnect between critics and audiences proved that sometimes the most important innovations aren't immediately recognized by establishment voices. Popular embrace ultimately determined the film's lasting legacy. Today, many of those same critics acknowledge the film as a masterpiece of cinema. What began as a low-budget experiment in the Spanish desert became the film that completely reinvented the Western genre. From mime-style direction and innovative dubbing techniques to legal battles and a poncho that was never washed, A Fistful of Dollars proved that creative risks and bold improvisations can make cinematic history. If you enjoyed uncovering these hidden secrets, hit that like button and subscribe for more fascinating stories from film history. Which of these facts shocked you the most? Was it the unwashed poncho, the legal battle with Kurosawa, or something else entirely?